Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm the Stretch Professor, and today we're going to be looking at the 823 support tier list. If you haven't checked out my support patch notes, be sure to check that out as well. I have a link right here in the Google Doc, which you can find in the description. It's kind of a long video, but I do have timestamps for you in the description to that video, just like I'll have timestamps in this video in case you don't have time to watch the whole thing. And there's been a lot of changes in the preseason, so be sure to check it out, see what's happened. There's been a lot of changes to runes, a lot of change to turrets, a lot of change to minions. This is one of the bigger changes that's happened in a while, and I think it's really going to shake up the metagame. And I talked about that kind of on a larger scale in the patch notes, but we're going to continue on and talk about how that affects the support role in this tier list. So as always, don't forget, leave that like and subscribe if you really enjoy this content, you like the critical engagement, you don't want the clickbait, you want the real information you can use to help you win games and appreciate the game more. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe and the bell button. That'll let YouTube know we have quality content, and then when people are out there searching and looking for high-quality tier lists or high-quality patch notes and things like that, then they'll be able to find the channel. It'll also let you know, of course, whenever I release videos. Okay, but let's go ahead and get in here. As always, this is targeted towards a plat-minus audience. You might see a slightly different metagame if you're looking at pro play or challenger level play. This is intended for non-specialists, so people with a moderate amount of practice, non-one tricks, how it might shake out for people that are playing these different supports. And then I'll always look at potential power versus just popularity and stats, especially when you have such a monumental shift in a metagame over such a short period of time. You know, one patch, it's only been out for a day or so far. Then looking at backward stats, so like what's been going on, what's been winning for the last month or so, it's not really going to be as valid because we need to be looking forward to how these changes are going to affect the meta. So we'll still look at stats and it'll be helpful, but also we need to think about what's the potential power of these picks. Are there things that people just haven't discovered yet? Okay, and then with each one of these picks as well, in the Google Doc, I have another mini doc which will tell you the runes I recommend, the items that I recommend, and then it'll also give you a rating system 1 to 5, 1 being one of the weaker champions at the role, 5 being one of the stronger champions. So lane pressure is how likely is the champion able to get priority in the lane, able to harass the enemy. How likely is the champion going to be able to get a kill in the lane? Safety is how safe is the champion from ganks, how easy is it to position with them in team fights, to ward with them without getting killed. You know, how likely are they to be able to get by without dying too many times in a game? Scaling, how well does the champion perform over time? And then reliability is a few different things. One is how easy is it to play the champion mechanically? It's also how difficult are the decisions to make with the champion? And then finally, how well does the champion fit into the overall metagame? Are there a lot of counters out there on the enemy team? And, you know, are there a lot of champions that are going to be popular that might show up on your team that the champion works really well with? So that is just reliability. How likely is it that you can perform the champion at a consistent level as you progress? Okay, so let's just talk really quickly about some of the big shifts, and then we'll talk about how this has impacted the meta overall, because this is going to affect a lot of, particularly the top picks. So I'm not going to go over all of the patch notes, but I just want to hit the highlights from what I talked about as it pertains to support. Okay, so the biggest thing here is turrets. All right, so what they've done with turrets is they've added 5 plates to each turret. Now, what a plate is, it represents 1,000 damage, and it gives extra armor. So the base plate gives 40 armor. And then after you kill one of the plates, then the next plate is going to give an additional 30 armor. So what this means is that as the turret goes down in HP, then it becomes harder to kill. There's an additional 25 armor and magic resist for each enemy beyond the first for 20 seconds after you kill a plate. So if you kill somebody, like you get a successful gank bot lane, and then your ADC, your jungler, and you all try to gang up on a turret, it's going to get an extra 50 armor in addition to whatever its standard plate bonus is. However, if you do kill the plates, you get 160 gold, local gold, for each plate that you kill. So if you kill all 5 plates on a turret, that's 800 gold. In addition, it also gives the standard gold for killing a turret, which is 500. It's 250 local, and then 50 for each person globally. So that brings the total up to 1,300 gold for a turret now. And if you get first tower blood, they lowered the bonus, but it's still 150. That's 1,450 gold. 1,450. Tower gold, first tower blood used to be worth 800, right? The 500 plus the 300. But this can happen on every tower. Not the first tower blood, but the 1300 can be every single tower. And the plates fall off at 14 minutes, though. So at 14 minutes, it loses, the towers lose all of their armor. They still keep the 5,000 health, but they lose all of their armor, and they're much easier to kill, much easier to take down after 14 minutes. But you can't get that extra gold at that point. So if somehow you can have a comp or a champion that can slam the bottom lane, grab all of those plates for the gold, and maybe make it over to mid lane and grab all of those plates for the gold before the 14 minutes rolls around, that's an astronomical amount of gold. Before you were going to get 1,300 gold for killing the mid tower and the bot tower and getting first tower blood. But now you're going to get the 1,450 plus the 1,300. That's 2,750 gold. That's a lot. It's like an extra 1,500 gold. So it's tremendously powerful if you can grab those things. The other flip side of this, and this is the side that, they were a lot of people that are analyzing the patch notes were trying to emphasize, and Riot was trying to emphasize with this thing is, it could let people stay in lane longer, so champions that need to scale can scale up a little bit more and have a little bit more power. That is sort of true, but at the same time, they're going to get bullied hard. They're going to get bodied by a lot of these poke champions that are going to be popular again now. Like, you've got your Sonas, your Janna, your Caitlyn, your Sivir, your Jen. All of these are going to be racing to take down those towers. And yeah, you might have a little bit longer before your tower falls if you're Vayne, but they're going to be getting a massive extra gold advantage by knocking out these plates. You're still going to get denied CS, and you're still going to get bodied. So I don't really think it's that great for a lot of these, like, hyper-scaling type of champions. I think it's going to be very siege-oriented, so instead of, like, early brawling, it's going to be early sieging. It's going to be the name of the game, and then wave clear is going to be tremendously important, both to defend the towers, especially when they have these plates, but also so that you can, move forward and harass people and poke towers. So that's probably the biggest meta shift, and I think this is going to get people in the bot lane to play, like I said, more of these siege, wave clear, poke type of champs. So Caitlyn, right? Caitlyn and her crew are going to be down in the tower. So Sivir's the champion that's kind of mainstream, that wins a lot, that does this pretty early on. Now, she has lower range, but she wave clears very well. She scales very well, and she has really good team utility moving forward. So you might see Sivir. Caitlyn can be good. Caitlyn's a lot harder to play. You have to have really good trap utilization. A lot of people are really bad with Caitlyn. But Jen is another one who has really good wave clear with his grenades and can really pressure towers pretty hard. So that's kind of the biggest deal. Another thing that's a pretty big deal that's going to influence this, which is sort of similar, are the minions. And so games are going to close out faster because these minions, they start getting a lot of extra damage. So the melee minions, for example, can scale up to 80 damage at 37 minutes. So games are going to be going a lot faster. Minions are going to knock out towers a lot faster. These towers aren't going to have the armor. And they, the minions are going to have more armor. They're going to have more HP. They're going to move faster, which is a huge thing. They get like an extra, ton of movement speed, right? So at 20 minutes, they're going to have 75 extra move speed. So they're going to be booking it. So that means there's almost always going to be a wave pressuring something on the map. You're not going to have these waves that are just like slowly walking to wherever they're supposed to be. It's always going to be pressure. So that means whenever you win fights or whenever you get priority in a lane, you're going to be able to transition and make something happen with that a lot faster. So that's a really big deal too. And elemental drakes are going to be much more powerful early on, and they're going to spawn faster. So they spawn at 5 minutes. They spawn a bit later, but then after you kill them, then they spawn every 5 minutes. And they're a lot more powerful. So in particular, Mountain Drake is now 16% extra damage to towers. Ocean Drake gives you an extra 6% missing. And Cloud Drake, instead of just giving you 6 out of combat movement speed, now gives you 9 out of combat movement speed. Which is pretty insane. So, once again, that means you want priority in a lane. You want to be able to push up. You want to have them pinned into the tower so that you can go and contest for these dragons a lot faster. And scuttles are still very important to be able to push up and contest scuttles. And to be able to get deep vision in the enemy jungle, start denying resources and things like that. So, those are things to really keep in mind as we start talking, and I'll reference those as we go about. So, big shift here. Range champions. very good at complementing a siege, poke, early game comp. So rune stats, this is another one that's going to highly favor ranged champions. The reason for that is a lot of tanks don't scale well with the first row. So these are kind of like the old runes we used to have. So you're going to have basically 10 AP or is AD equivalent, 10 AP, 9% attack speed, or between 1 to 10% cooldown reduction. Okay, tanks, most of them can't use this very well, right? So they're not going to be able to apply extra damage because they are all-in champs, not poke champs early on. And so, you know, Alistar's not going to be able to do a lot with that 10 AP. Yeah, it'll help a little bit, but it's going to help someone like Janna and Sona way more, where they have really good AP ratios and they can harass very well in the early game. So this is going to dramatically favor most ranged supports over most melee supports, with the exception of Rakan, who's technically ranged, but he's short range. He still benefits pretty heavily from the AP. But yeah, they're just not going to use this other stuff that well. And then this one, you can get armor, magic resist, or the 10 AP. So everybody will like that. It will something for everyone. But once again, the offense is going to get favored early on. And then this third row, you can get health, armor, magic resist. So the squishy supports will like some of these tankiness. Now, I see most people going for the health. I tended to think armor might be better because you're going to be getting hit back by the minions whenever you auto and harass. With champions like Janna and Sona, you're going to get hit by a couple of ranged minions or something every now and then, so having the armor helps. But I saw more people getting health. Armor is a 100 gold value, 5 armor, 15 health is about like a 30... It's like a 33 gold value or something, so it feels like early game the armor is a bad choice, but maybe the health is a bad choice, but I don't know. I'll have to think about it. Health is disproportionately really strong in the early game because a lot of those enchanters start with really low health, so maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know, but either way, like either armor or health would be pretty good early. So basically, if you're Janna or Sona or whatever, you can get 20 extra starting AP and get some armor or health. So all of that is all good. Versus like as you know, Thresh or Nautilus, yeah, you can get, you know, 10 extra armor and whatever you're gonna get here, but it's not nearly as good. It doesn't. Tanks typically don't scale as well, and they can't really express their power. Like they're all in, they aren't poke. And these types of stats, the 10 AP, at least for supports, a lot of times favors poke. So that's another thing that heavily favors enchanters and AP champs. Let's see. Celerity on some champs can be really good. I've seen people running this on Janna, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit, and how that stacks up with her passive at mobility boots and her W. Could be pretty gross. Dark Harvest is another one that's kind of a really big deal. They might fix this. This does so much damage early. It does 50 extra damage, even at level 1, and you get some extra based on your ability power, and you get 8 per stack that you harvest. So this on Zyra is crazy. We'll talk about that here in a little bit, but it's a lot of extra damage if you get people under 50%. I've even seen some people trying out something on Janna, like where you go Dark Harvest and then get Cheap Shot, and then you just get something like Eyeball Collection and, you know, whatever you want to get from the 4th row, and then grab, you know, something like either Celerity or Absolute Focus and then Scorch. So you just have just like tremendous early game pressure off of just like Wing someone, just autoing them down and having your shield. So even on someone like that, I've seen people like trying to take this on Sona even to try it out. They're just very extreme because she has such great scaling with Aerie. I don't know. I don't know if it's okay on the enchanters. I haven't tried that yet. It kind of like the Janna thing is a little intriguing because Cheap Shot gives you like one extra thing that can do more damage. Then you have 3 things that can proc damage. Basically, you have Cheap Shot, Scorch, and Absolute Focus. I guess the same as with Aerie, but Aerie's gonna do like 10 damage or something early game, whereas this does 50. If you get below, like, it's like, yeah, it has a 45-second cooldown, but still, like, I don't know. Interesting options here, but yeah, definitely a grand slam on someone like Zyra, and it's so powerful that it might even be something worth considering on some enchanters. Sadie, you know I'm going to tell you to get down. Can't crawl over the keyboard. Come on. I'll feed you in a little bit. Now, Shield Bash is the final thing that, well, almost the final thing that I'll mention here. A lot of people are really hype on Shield Bash. I'm not sure if I'm seeing it correctly here. Like, okay, so you get a little bit of extra armor, right? So I did some math in the patch notes video, right? So if it's like level 3, you know, you're going to get probably like 3 extra armor, 3 extra magic resist. Good little value, right? Like maybe 90 gold value early on, something like that. 90 to 100 gold value. And then you also get some extra damage. It's only on 1 auto attack that you put out, and it's 8.5% of the shield's strength. It does not increase your shield strength by 8.5%. It just increases your damage by 8.5% of the shield strength. So if you had a 100 shield, it would add on 8.5 damage. And it's 1.5% of your bonus health, not your total health, your bonus health that you get. So this is obviously intended to be used mostly in the early game to be very strong. It doesn't have like significant AP ratios or health ratios. It's just for some early game bullying. And the numbers are very low. I mean, getting something like, I think I looked at like a reasonable scenario. You might have 8 or 9 on-hit damage early on. 8 on-hit damage is about a 200 gold value. So it's pretty good. I mean, if you're getting almost 100 gold value out of this, and then you're getting, you know, a 200 gold value out of this. That is a 300 value, but it's conditional. It's only whenever you have a shield triggered. So, you know, like, this could be compelling on something like Sona. Obviously, you know, when you use your W, it shields yourself and shields your ally. And, you know, that would give you some nice damage. And you can go Revitalize, so that could be helpful. But on someone like Janna, like, you're only going to be able to trigger this once every, you know, in the early game, 16 seconds when your shield is up. And you'd have to put the shield on yourself, which would leave you really vulnerable to all ends for the next 16 seconds, just so you can get a little bit extra harass here. I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be worth it. Because there are other options you can take, such as Absolute Focus, which gives you like a permanent, you know, probably like 8 to 10 AP at the time, which, you know, 10 AP is like a 220 gold value. And it's up all the time. It's not conditional. It's not only up, you know, once every 20 seconds. As long as you have over 70% health, it's always up. And it affects your abilities. Like, this is not AD. This is not AP. It's just magical damage on your attack. So it doesn't affect, like, how much damage your abilities are going to do. So, I don't know. I think people are going to be reaching for this too hard. There are some circumstances that make sense with this. Now, I do think on some AD carries, people who take Fleet Footwork plus Overheal and then take Shield Bash, especially on Caitlyn, that could be broken because there's no cooldown on that shield. And what you can do is just hit the minion wave. You'll get a little shield. Then you can hit the enemy. You get that extra on-hit damage. If they hit you back, great. You took a little bit of damage. Then if you just heal some more off your Doran's Blade and your Fleet Footwork, you could even go for the healing. Instead of the attack speed, the Bloodline for the healing if you want to. That might be a little extreme. But if you have someone like Sona, they can also top you off. Or Soraka. Now with Sona, with Caitlyn, if they both have Shield Bash, that's going to be really oppressive. Because Sona, like, what'll basically happen is you'll get your overheal from Caitlyn, you attack them. Okay, they hit you back, you go below the health. Okay, then you W again. That's going to give you a shield from Sona. They both auto-attack. They both get the on-hit damage back again. Then you hit, you know, the Caitlyn again. She falls below again. She heals back up off of overheal, gets the shield again. She can attack again. So that's abusive, where you don't have to use any mana to get the shield. You just passively get a shield from overheal, and you do extra damage. Another trick could be if they don't hit you back, you could just let the ranged minions hit you once or twice as they're coming in, just to drop you down to about 100% health again. Auto attack again, get that shield back up, rinse and repeat every wave. So that has the potential to be really gross with someone who like becomes very proficient at managing that. So who always stays around 100 to 101% health to get that little bit of shield so they trigger this over and over again. So I think they're going to have to nerf this to where it's like you get the shield off of somebody else. I don't know. I mean, is it really that oppressive? It'd be like an extra 8 on-hit damage. The thing is they have to go Shield Bash instead of getting something like Gathering Storm and Celerity, so they're giving up quite a bit in order to get this, because nothing else in that tree is that great. I guess they could get Bone Plating like Caitlyn, but I don't know. Like, it's cute, it's gimmicky. not entirely sold that it's worth it in most cases. In some like cases where it fits really organically into your natural trading pattern, like Sona, maybe it works. But for people who have to go really far out of their way and try to like do all sorts of gimmicks, you know, it might be good on someone like Victor, for example, who can just spam his Q and get a shield and isn't going too far out of his way. I don't know. But it's interesting to think about. Bone plating got nerfed hardcore. I mean, it does block 25 damage. So, or is that, it was 15. So it, like, one plate does block what 2 plates used to block. So I guess that's something. So it, like, it's very rare you're going to get all 3 plates to trigger. But even if you only get 2 plates to trigger, then that's the same thing. No, it's not the same thing as getting all 3 to trigger before. So, you know, 1.5 seconds is not very long. Like, they hit you with something, you know, they'll auto-attack you. Maybe they hit you with one more spell. You're probably only going to break 1 plate. So, there are some scenarios where this might be stronger, but I think a lot of times, unless they're just completely unloading all of their cooldowns on you, then they can play around this a lot easier. So, I think it's nerfed. And then Chrysalis is nerfed too. So, the fact that every enchanter doesn't have to take Bone Plating and Chrysalis anymore because they can get defense from the runes is going to free them up to get even more aggressive stuff. So, it, you know, it'll free up Janna to take something like Dark Harvest, Cheap Shot, Absolute, and Scorch. It'll free people up to take things like Biscuits. They can trade more aggressively early on, or Footwear plus Cosmic Insight so that they accelerate and scale faster to get to their items. So, I think this is very, very good for enchanters, that they are not forced to get Bone Plating and Chrysalis anymore. And this is going to hurt the tanks, because tanks don't have a great alternative. Whereas enchanters have amazing alternatives that they have always wanted to get, but they weren't able to because these 2 runes were the fun police, pretty much, for the last, like, 6 months. And finally, Kleptomancy, very interesting as well, but I don't know. It feels greedy. Like, the best case for this would probably be, like, Sona. Now, Janna is interesting, too, because if you hit him with a W, you slow him down, so you can walk up and auto-attack him twice. So, that could be good. You can generate quite a lot of gold off of that. Like, I've had some really bad laning phases, and I still got 300 or 400 gold off of this. You are giving up a lot of your harass to do that. Sort of. I mean, you're getting potions, so you can harass more aggressively. You're getting mana potions, health potions. You're getting wards early, potentially, so that you can be aggressive before you complete your Frostfang. Or before you unlock the wards off of Frostfang, I should say. So, I don't know. I'm not entirely convinced that Kleptomancy is bad, but I don't see a lot of the top players getting it right now. But it's certainly an interesting consideration, particularly on people who can proc this very easily and get those auto attacks in, like the Janna, like the Sona. It's an intriguing option, so that's definitely something to kind of keep your eye on. And then bounties, sort of the final thing that I'll talk about here. The main takeaway from this is that kills are less valuable because you're going to be giving gold back to the enemy whenever they get your shutdown. So if you go and you just kill a couple of people, you chase down that kill instead of taking the tower, that's a fail. Because whenever they kill you back, they're going to get most of that gold back now. So it just rubber bands. It's almost like you're borrowing gold. You get some temporary gold to get an advantage in the game, but then if you goof around and you get killed, they're going to get all that gold back. So this makes it much, much better to get things that don't rubber band. So to get towers, because they don't get any extra tower gold back. Right, you kill their tower, they don't get bonus gold for killing your tower back. Dragons, they don't get any bonus for that. Barons, they don't get any bonus. You know, managing waves, denying CS, taking jungle camps, all that stuff, they don't get any bonus. Now, they do get some bonus back if you're really ahead in farm. So that's something that they just added in with this gold bounty. So now even just like power farming isn't something that's, you know, without consequence. So now, like, unequivocally, the best thing to do is to knock those towers as fast as you possibly can. And to just choke them out, get all the dragons, the Baron, all of that stuff. Just get the objectives. So it's a much more objective-focused game if you're trying to play the smartest, most efficient game possible. So that's basically how you need to interpret this. And this is going to let you get back into the game. If you're playing a smart objective game and they have that Fizz that's chasing down kills, Especially if they're just farming the same person who keeps dying over and over again. Like, let's say that Fizz kills your Scion top 4 times. They're going to have a massive bounty on their head now, right? So they're going to have, 400 gold bounty, and that Scion's only going to be worth 100 gold. So they're killing the Scion for 100 gold, but then it's getting an extra 100 gold on their bounty every time they do it. So basically, they're just borrowing money, pretty much. So they're getting 100, but as soon as you kill them, you're going to get the 100 right back if they're feeding off the same person. So this makes it a lot harder for one person on your team to throw because they're feeding, or an assassin on the enemy team to just completely take over the game because they have a lot of kills. Like, yeah, for a little bit, but if you manage to get a hold and shut them down and they're not really focusing on objectives, then you can definitely come back into the game. So I like that. It adds a lot more benefits for smart play. Damn it, I was going to make this video. I was trying to make it like 15 minutes long. I guess that's not going to happen, but I just did want to run that down because I know I did the patch notes video, but people keep asking me on stream, oh my god, what are these tower plays, or what is this, what is that? So I just wanted to just hit the highlights. There's a lot more stuff, so watch the patch notes, but that's the stuff that I think will mostly affect support. So let's get in here and let's see if we can get, let's at least try to aim for an hour or less. Maybe 45 minutes if we go crazy. But okay, so biggest movers. Janna's a huge mover. So why Janna? It might seem like it's come out of left field. She hasn't been that bad statistically for a little bit. She has still had a 50, 51, 52% win rate. It's possible I just wasn't like giving her a fair shot. I haven't played her a lot recently. She did get several nerfs a while ago, but then recently she did get a buff, maybe 2 or 3 patches ago to her W. Yeah, on 819. So particularly in the early game, she gets more damage off of her Tailwind. So bonus movement speed ratio increased 35%. So that gives her more speed, which gives her more damage, which allows her allies to rotate back to her fast enough. So first of all, historically, Janna has been the most powerful solo queue support. I think it's almost undeniable to argue that. It's, at least statistically, the highest win rate. So why is this? Well, her kit is extremely powerful. She has multiple disengage tools. She has the tornado. She has her shield, which not only shields, but gives a lot of extra AD. She's extremely safe, which allows you to try to go save people who are doing really stupid things, and you can probably get away yourself without dying because she's so fast. She has an extremely powerful ultimate, which not only disengages, but like heals your team up to like full health. Most of the time, she scales very well with AP. She scales very well with plus healing and shielding. And her shield gives an extra BF sword to your AD carry, so she scales really well with your AD carry if they're doing well. Or because it's flat AD and not attack speed, also scales with AD assassins. So you can throw this on the Zed when they're about to ult. You can throw it on the Talon, the Rengar, whoever. It's going to make them hit like a truck. It basically gives them an extra BF sword. It's 40 AD that you're giving them, in addition to 10% of your AP. So if you have 100 AP, you're giving them an extra longsword on top of that. I think longswords are 10 AD. They might be 15. But either way, it's hooking them up with a lot of damage. And this is something that a lot of people historically have really undervalued. Now, they have nerfed her a lot, right? Like, her shield used to always be 10 seconds. Now it's 18 seconds. It used to not decay. Now it decays. It used to be 240. Now it's 210. So she's been nerfed like a million times over the last year and a half. But why is she coming back? Because she's very, very good at these siege type of comms, right? So it allows you to press up, to put pressure on the tower. She has 550 attack range, so really good at autoing that tower. And you can get away. So if they try to come gank you, not only are you pretty fast, so you're going to be able to run away, but you have this aura which gives people around you quite a lot of movement speed. So 8% of your bonus movement speed. So if you have 100 bonus movement speed, which is really easy to get with her, especially once you get mobility boots, you're going to give everyone an extra 8 movement speed who's trying to run towards you. Or it could be even more than that if you have even larger bonus movement speed. So that's really, really nice, right? And she has multiple disengage. Not only is she fast, not only does she speed up her allies that are trying to escape, but she's got the tornado. She's got her W to slow people down. So this allows you to pressure up and defend against jungle ganks a lot more. Not only just yourself getting away, but sort of peel and help your AD carry get out of some really sticky situations. Also, you can put that shield on people. So she's one of the only people that actively does extra damage to towers with her abilities early on, because you can throw the shield on yourself or your AD carry while you're attacking that tower, and you're going to be giving them that extra 10 to 25 AD in the early game, depending on what you're scaling up. That's very powerful. You can also defend your own towers. You can shield your own tower to defend some of the damage. You can wave clear. It's kind of risky to do it, but if you know the jungler's top side, for example, you're not going to get engaged on, you can do a full charge tornado and just let the tornado go right through and help you wave clear a little bit. Now, they did lower the cost on this to 60, I think. Yeah, early on. So that's kind of useful. But you don't really max this out later. But early on, doing 100 extra damage to an entire minion wave that's walking in can be pretty strong wave clear in the early game. And, like I said before, she scales really well. She's got a 0.7 on her shield. That also converts over to extra AD. And she has 150% on her ult. So very, very good with Ardent Sensor, which is going to be really nice once again now, because it's going to give both you and your AD carry extra attack speed to knock out those plates even faster. So I think we're back. Ardent Sensor, Redemption, Janna. Except now people are getting a couple of extra points in her W, which doesn't cost that much. I think they increased the cost a little bit from what it used to be, but it's quite a bit of damage. I mean, if you look at it, you get an extra 45 per point that you put in this, and don't forget that you get an extra 25% of your bonus movement speed. Of your bonus movement speed to damage. So, if you get 100 extra bonus movement speed, you're going to be doing 25 extra damage on this as well, and your auto attacks. So she's actually pretty decent at harassing. You'll start off with like 35 AP if you start off with, all of the correct runes and spell thieves and all that kind of stuff. You usually start at 35 AP, which is big. Like, you're going to be hitting people pretty hard early on. So I think that's the thing, is that she can be very aggressive early, and she transitions into a high scaling, relatively safe, and that's different from a lot of these other aggressive champions we're going to talk about. But she's a lot safer than they are. She puts out pretty good harassment early on, and she scales extremely well later on into the game. She plays very well with siege type of champions like Sivir, like Caitlyn, because that extra AD not only affects their autos, but it affects their abilities. So Sivir's Q and Caitlyn's Q are going to clear the wave a lot faster, because they're going to have that extra AD at their back. So I think that makes her uniquely powerful, where some of these runes now, you can be an aggressive threat in the early game. Not as aggressive as Zyra or Sona probably, but pretty dang aggressive. And you scale much better. You have pretty good game against assassins. In theory, you can disengage. You can get some defensive stuff if you really have to. But yeah, just very, very strong. So yeah, I'm still going to recommend Airy, Mana Flow, Celerity, Scorch, and then, this is kind of up for grabs. You can try out Shield Bash if you want. Going something like Cosmic Insight and Boots can be helpful. It just really kind of depends on your matchup. I do think that Cheap Shot is interesting if you think you can bully out your lane. So your W's obviously going to slow them, so you get that Cheap Shot in there. And Eyeball Collection scales pretty well. I've seen people do the scaling out of combat movement speed also. So I think there are a lot of good options. I haven't tried the Dark Harvest version. If you're really going to be able to just bulldoze your lane, if it's like Draven, Janna against, Vayne, Braum, or something like that, you probably could go for the Dark Harvest and really put the screws to them, but we'll have to see how it goes. And I think Mobility Boots, I think Spell Thieves is definitely back, and that's going to be on most champs. Now, the main reason for this is coin has historically been very good if you're kind of trying to scale towards later in the game. But right now, you need those stats immediately. You want that AP from level 1, and you just want to be able to put as much power as you can on those towers. Don't forget that the on-hit damage from Spell Thieves and Frostfang damages towers as well. So it doesn't just do extra damage on your autos, which it does, but it also adds extra damage to towers. So I think very early game, push a meta just as fast as you can, crank it. And so I think that we're back to Spell Thieves. Anything that can use Spell Thieves is going to have a huge edge over other stuff. Then I think Ardent Sensor, being able to grab that early Amp Tome on your first back. Maybe you crack a plate, go back, you've got enough for an Amp Tome, grab that bad boy, get in there, keep up the pressure, as much as you can. So I think we're back to Rush Ardent, then Redemption, and then probably Mikhail's somewhere after that. Because cracking those plates is going to give you, as the support, some of that extra gold too. So you're going to be able to, get those pieces faster to get your AP a little bit faster there. Because you come back with that amp tome and the enemy support doesn't have that, or they're just sitting there on like a cloth armor or something. You're going to really they're going to start feeling it. So I think Janna's great for that. Just nice, well-rounded, good early game pressure, excellent at tower defense, excellent at tower aggression, really good historically with champions like Sivir, like Caitlyn, like Jhin, because she helps out their wave clear early on with her shield. Very, very powerful. Also, the biggest thing is she's so safe too. That's a huge theme, because people are still going to be playing assassins. They're still going to try to gank you bot lane. You're still going to get the 4-man dive bot lane a lot of times, and Janna is one of the better champions out of the Enchanter class to deal with that early on. Obviously, she's not going to be as good as something like an Alistar at defending dives, but as far as Enchanters go, people who can apply early pressure and have some defense, I think she's going to be your best option. Okay, Sona's another one. Now, Sona could easily be number 1. I've already seen a couple of Sona bans just in the games that I played earlier this evening. But Sona's scary. Whenever there's something where you can spam abilities and do a lot of damage and, have really nice scaling, Sona's going to be good. So she's obviously very good with Aerie. She's not necessarily going to be, have a ton of advantage out of these runes. It's going to be nice that she doesn't have to go for these runes. Now, she can do Shield Bash plus Revitalize. It's pretty strong on her. You could even do Bone Plating if you're afraid of an all-in. If you're against Leona or something like that, you could do Bone Plating plus Shield Bash. You could maybe try that Dark Harvest build that I mentioned before with Janna, although she can't take Cheap Shot, so maybe it's not worth it to do that on Sona. I was finding a lot less data on Sona because really high-level players don't play her as much as some of the other choices, but I think you can just go the standard Aerie Mana Flow Band, Absolute Focus, Scorch, and then Shield Bash Revitalize would probably be fine. You could also go Cosmic Insight and Boots if you want to get kind of the value play out of there, but yeah, just being able to spam them, put some damage on them, harass them, push forward, scale really well. She's a great Ardent Sensor user, so you can make very good use of that, early on Amp Tome. She's a great Athene's user, which is awesome, just great efficiency early on, especially if the laning phase is extended. So I think she's fantastic. She also has a pretty good matchup early on against Janna because she can heal herself. Janna doesn't heal. That's a huge weakness of her early. So Janna is good at bullying out other people that don't heal. But as far as healers go, she can have a hard time with that early on. Now, Sona's major drawback, though, is she can get ganked and shanked a lot. So she has virtually no escapes. All she can do is press her E and hope she can run away. So if you get flanked, early game Lee Sin gets behind you, Xin Zhao, something like that. You don't have your flash. Half the time, even if you do have your flash, you're probably dead. So, yeah, you can pressure a lot, but it's going to be a lot less safe for you to pressure. So you better make sure you have a good early game aggression jungler who's going to back you up in the bot lane. Help them secure the scuttle if you can. And, yeah, just be very reserved. Be very careful about roams. Mid lane roaming, jungler coming down. But other than that, she's very good at 5-on-5. So if later on you can just spam your W in a team fight, as I always say, if the team fight goes longer than 5 seconds against the Sona, usually it's almost impossible to win. Because, once she gets off 2 of those shields and 2 of the heals, it's just tremendous. I mean, it's like multiple thousands of effective HP if she tags everybody with those shields. She has a couple of items, like Ardent Sensor Redemption. She's got maxed out W, 20, 22 minutes in the game or something. Everyone's grouped up as 5. Forget it. You're not going to win the fight, especially if she drops a redemption on top of that. So if tanks start coming back, if it's like team fighting tanks, I don't think that's necessarily going to happen right now, but if that's kind of how the meta evolves soon, then, definitely watch out for Sona. So she's a bully. She's pretty good against Janna. She's pretty good against a lot of stuff out there right now. So she is vulnerable to assassins. That is scary. But she's like a more aggressive version of Janna, especially early on, with less safety. But yeah, some people might call her number 1. I think it's 1A, 1B. Very good. Zyra's also extremely good. I mean, Zyra might even be the best. It's really kind of a toss-up. I'm going to have to play more to see. I feel like for most people, it's one of these three people. Rakan is kind of like a high-elo special, or if you're really good with Rakan, I think he'll still be good. Although he can definitely get bodied by all of these in the laning phase. You know, he's going to be in a world of hurt early on, potentially. But Zyra, very, very strong. She loves these changes. You know, she's probably the best abuser in the support role of Dark Harvest. She can still get Taste of Blood. Some people do Cheap Shot. I don't like that. That means you have to use your E's, you know, really aggressively to harass to get good trades. And I think you want to hold your E's for all ends, or just in case you get ganked. I'd rather harass with my Q. So I think Taste of Blood is nice. Gives you that extra little bit of sustain, especially if you're against something like, you know, a Sona or a Nami that's going to be trading aggressively with you early. Eyeball Collection, Ravenous Hunter, and then Absolute Focus and Scorch. So just having, you know, Absolute Focus, Scorch, and Dark Harvest, and your plants just constantly applying pressure. If they don't have a healer, they're going to be run out of the lane really quickly. That's very good, and she also loves the laning phase. The longer the laning phase, the better. She can apply so much pressure. Kind of like Sona, you do have to be careful that you don't get ganked. But very, very powerful. Lots of all-in threat. Lots of great harassment. I think if you're gold and lower, Zyra is probably the best if you can play her. She's very, very good. We'll see. But yeah, I think that she's definitely going to be on the up and up with some of these trades. Also, huge beneficiary of not having to get Bone Plating and Chrysalis. So that's going to open her up to get a lot more aggressive runes to apply even more pressure early on. Very good scaling with the 20 AP that you get early. So I think Zyra's going to be fantastic. Rakan is someone that I still have up here, and, you know, it's tough because I think that Rakan has a really nice engage where he can get a hold of and kill these enchanters at level 6, potentially. But if you're already like 30 gold behind and you've lost, or like 30 CS behind and you've lost like 2 plates by the time you get there, it might be too late. He does really like the AP that you can get. If you go with the Airy build, which I think maybe Airy plus Scorch might be back in vogue, just so you can kind of keep up with Janna and Sona in the early game. And Absolute Focus is very good as well. So I think that you could make good use of that stuff. Now that you don't have to get Bone Plating and Chrysalis, you can get Footwear and Cosmic, which is going to allow you to get to something like an Ardent Censer or a Zeke's faster. It might be worth it to go Ardent Censer on him now, just because you can get that Amp Tome and apply more pressure early on. Like, Zeke's is all good, but it doesn't allow you to harass, it doesn't allow you to take towers faster. So I think just going for the Airy Scorch, and then rushing Ardent Censer and going for Frostfang early on, and then getting like 3 points of Q in the laning phase, that might be the way to go. And if you can consistently land your Q, then he can put out some pretty good harassment early. And if you get him down, you know, to like 50% health, you can go for an all-in with your W. So, very versatile. If your team needs an engage, but you still want to have someone who can kind of scrap early on, Rakan's one of the better options. He does scale really well at the AP, unlike a lot of the other engaged champions, like the Nautilus, like the Thresh. Now, applying tower pressure is still going to be a problem. He does have more range than like a Nautilus, but at the same time, you're not going to be able to get in as many autos on that tower as other people. Now, you can press up and get away safely. Your AD carry might die, though, if you do that. And you can safely go and ward the enemy jungler. Rakan is one of the safest people in the game, like right there with Janna. Probably even safer than Janna if you're in the enemy jungle, because you can hop over walls. But I think he's still going to be like definitely serviceable. Now, he is going to get outscaled, potentially, if they end up knocking down your whole tower and getting a ton of that bounty, and they get to Ardent Censer plus Redemption. It's going to be really hard to come back from that in a team fight. But, because if you don't get the Janna, if you try to engage on somebody else and Janna just ults and heals through your engage, that's going to be real rough. Now, your ult is on a lower cooldown than hers, but it's going to be rough. So if you can survive the early game, if you're not going to get completely pounded in, he doesn't have very good wave clear either. You know, he can use his W to try to clear, but you're going to be taking her ass, obviously, if you do that. So, maybe he should be a bit lower for your average person, but I still think that if you're familiar with Rakan, or you want to learn him, I still think he can be very good just because he's the best, hard engage option, and hard engage is still at a premium right now. Janna's all good, and, Sona's all good, but at the end of the day, if no one on your team has an engage and people are just sitting there staring at each other 5-on-5 late game, and, you just have to wait until they engage onto you, or you're just waiting until, someone on your team gets caught, that's a bad proposition. I played a game earlier tonight where we had a Soraka, and I thought I died too much as Soraka, but I just remember late in the game, our team comp had no engage, and so we just pretty much had to wait for the enemy Nautilus to engage on us and just hope we could counter it. I just felt like I was losing a lot of opportunities. I just didn't have as much control of the game because I couldn't dictate when the fight was going to start. If someone was out of position, I could ping it hey, let's get him. But at the end of the day, we couldn't do anything about it. Whereas if I was, Nautilus or Rakan or something, I could start that fight. I could say, hey, this guy's really far out of position. I'm doing this. And, start the fight. So that is something Rakan can do. So you're going to pay the price early, but if you hit those cues, you can probably make it through, and you still have some of the best engage in the game. So I think he's the best, sort of mid-game, skirmisher, hard engage champ that we have left. And then I think Nautilus is still going to be up here. No one else is going to put Nautilus this high, but I tried him out again tonight. Still feels really strong. Just that point-click engage, those hooks. If you get a hold of the Sona or the Janna and you have something aggressive on your team like Lucian or Jhin, Misfortune, something like that, you can blow them up really hard. They're not going to have the Chrysalis. They're not going to have the bone plating, probably early on. Definitely not going to have Chrysalis. Probably won't have bone plating. So you can definitely fight back. So it gets harder when you're constantly pushed into your tower and getting harassed through minion waves where you can't get a clean shot at a hook. So he's not as dominant as he was, but I still think it can be good. And unlike a lot of other tanks, he actually has pretty respectable wave clear. That E does quite a bit. So you can actually push in. If you have someone like a Sivir with you or a Caitlyn, you can contribute, you can push in. Whereas, and it's on a low cooldown. It's relatively low mana early on. It's still kind of expensive if you do it a lot, but you're not giving up a lot of your power to do that wave clear. Whereas with Thresh, if you try to flay the wave, which is not going to do as much damage, you're also opening yourself up to getting engaged on if you do that. You're losing one of your important tools. You're not really losing an important tool with Nautilus to use your E to help clear a wave. Because it's going to be back up again anyways. You still have your shield, you still have your hook, you still have your auto attacks. You have a lot of stuff you can do while you're waiting on that E to come back up in 5 seconds. So I think, he's great. He still has the hard engage. He has the wave clear. He has the point-click ultimate. He has the Ardent Sensor option if you want that. That's not great all the time, but, you can go Font of Life into Ardent Sensor if you have a couple of, high scalers on your team, your Master Yi, Kindred, plus your AD carry, your Sivers, your Kaisa, stuff like that. So it's an option. Most of the time, you're probably just going to go something like Zeke's Knight's Vow. But he's still good. He's solid. I think he's one of the most well-rounded, pretty good engaged champs that are left. Okay, down here in Tier 2, Nami. So Nami might move up a little bit. I could definitely see some scenarios where, maybe Nami should be Tier 1. I'll have to practice her and see. But she did get her heal nerfed recently. But she still has really good harassment early. It's pretty much the same story as Janna and Sona. You can harass really hardcore now. Just the things that Nami brings to the table is she has pretty good, follow-up CC. So if you have someone else that can start a fight, like a Vi engage or a Zac or just something else that can jump in there and get going, Scion, then you can chain that together with your bubble. You can just throw bubbles by themselves, but it's a lot harder to hit those. Her wave is very good disengage too, so if they're trying to makes her really good with someone like Caitlyn. They're trying to dive your Caitlyn, you can just use that wave, peel them back a little bit, hit the bubble, she can trap them. So it makes it very difficult for champions like Rakan or Nautilus to engage through the Nami, because if she has that wave going, you're not going to be able to go through it. It's going to knock you up and stop you from doing what you want to do. So I think that makes her pretty powerful. She can auto-attack the waves, you know, she can't add on, like, her E doesn't do any extra damage to towers because it's on hit, so it's not as effective as, like, a Janna shield. And she is kind of mana-hungry early. But her damage is also her healing, so she can just, y'all know how Nami works probably, you just walk up, you auto-attack, use your wave, boom, there's a good trade. And then you just rinse and repeat every time. So, I think that Nami can be a pretty good early game bully. I don't think she's going to scale as well as Sona, and I don't think she has quite the same level of safety and utility as Janna, but she is still going to be a very good option. Particularly if you have a champ that wants to like run down other people. So like a Vayne, Kaisa, maybe Twitch with the E. Can be pretty good. Okay, Thresh I have down here. Now, Thresh probably still has a pretty good win rate. A lot of people might have him at tier 1. He did get some buffs, like 5 or 6 patches ago. He got a buff to his Q and a buff to his W, which was very nice. He has been very strong for the last few patches because he's able to start a fight with his Q, but he's also able to disengage from a lot of these other hard engaged champs like Nautilus, like Leona. So he's just very versatile in that he can peel and he can start fights. But he has terrible wave clear. You know, he has short auto attack range. He's not going to be able to attack towers very well. None of his abilities do great AoE damage. He doesn't have any sort of heal. So if you get poked out, you're in big trouble. He has really low base stats. So if you're just sitting there eating auto attacks and, you know, W's from Janna the whole lane, or just eating auto attacks and Q's from Sona, you're going to have a bad time. So he can take something like Biscuit to help him out, but, you know, if you're just getting pushed in by, you know, Sivir Janna or Caitlyn Sona or whatever, your AD carry is just going to be farming under tower the whole time, and you're just going to get attritioned out. They're going to grab your plates. And it, you know, minions do a lot more damage now too as the clock ticks up. And so if you're trying to engage and fight in minions, which you will because you don't have any wave clear, it's going to add up. It's going to do a lot of damage. So he still does have the utility. He still does have a hook, which is really nice. He still does have a peel. You know, if you're a one-trick Thresh, you can definitely make it work. But the itemization is getting rough because he just does not apply a ton of like poke pressure early. He has all-in pressure, yeah, but I mean, maybe if you have an aggressive all-in lane, you know, if you have something like a Draven and you can flash play early and hook him and get a kill early, like maybe you can snowball it. But I would just say in general, Zyra is a nightmare for him because she pokes him out so hard and her plants can block his hook. Like, Zyra is just a catastrophe. He can be good against Sona and Janna if he can get a hold of him. But if remember, they can sit and cast their stuff in the middle of the minion wave. You know, Janna can just walk up and W through the minion wave. You know, maybe there's 2 minions left because her AD carry's pushing in while you're just sitting there watching. And then she's able to get up and throw free harass on your AD carrier on you with her W. Just take back a couple of hits from the creeps, rinse and repeat every time. That's bad. That's bad. So those champions these 3 do not need clear line of sight to harass you. They can do it anytime, anywhere. You have to have a clear line of sight to land your hook unless you're flash playing. So that is tough. And you're going to be getting hit a lot, you know, from the Sivir bounces, from the Caitlyn auto attacks, from the Jhin bouncing grenade bounces, or dancing grenade bounces. So it's a tougher meta. It's a much tougher meta than it was the previous patch. But I still think that he can work. Alistar is another one that's kind of like Thresh. I gave Thresh a bit more of a nod because he can at least engage from a distance if you see that, you know, Sona trying to ward. And you can throw a hook over a wall, or you can manage to get vision control of a bush through some miracle, you know, and land a hook. Then, you know, you're not fully committed to going all in at that point. But he's just a little more versatile. Alistar is really like, you need to be winning and you need to be very confident that if you go in, you're going to kill him. And you know who Alistar does not want to see? Caitlyn. A good Caitlyn, because she's going to have those traps set up. She's going to push you into your tower, and you're not going to be able to headbutt combo her because she's going to be standing behind the traps. Now, a bad standard Caitlyn, sure. You can probably still get on top of her. But she's got a lot of tools. She can net backwards if you try to run at her. She can have traps down and play around those traps. So Caitlyn makes it very difficult for champions like Alistar and like Rakan too to engage on her. Versus like a hook champ, you know, like Nautilus, like Thresh, can still get at her a little bit better through her traps. But it's tough. Alistar does have a heal, so he can kind of sustain through some harass. And he can all engage through minions. That is one thing he has going for him. He doesn't have to have a clear line. You know, if he wants to, he can headbutt pole that, you know, Janna or Sona anytime they go up to harass. So he does have that level of freedom, but he's a bit more committed to all in. He's a bit less safe. So he could still be good, but roaming is also a lot more dangerous. You know, if you try to go roam middle with, you know, mobility boots Alistar and they take a plate off your tower, that's a huge risk. You just lost 160 gold because you wanted to go try to make a play middle. So I think that roaming is going to be a lot worse on this patch, particularly from the support role, because your AD carry is going to be all alone and they're going to lose a plate, probably, at least one. If the enemy gets to push in and have sort of just free firing on your tower with a ranged support and an AD carry. So I think that's his biggest strength, is grabbing mobility boots and like running around trying to make a play in middle, trying to make a play in the jungle or whatever. And that's just a lot more dangerous than it used to be. A lot more risk is involved. Okay, Soraka's another one. I'm not really sure where to put Soraka. I was kind of frustrated with her earlier tonight, but I think in the right composition, and if you play her right in position right, she can be very good in theory against something like a Janna or a Sona. You know, she can stop the Janna ult with her E. You know, with Sona, maybe you can like silence her before she ults. She is very good at small skirmishing, right? She has one of the most efficient heals in the whole game, and if you can consistently hit those Qs, then that provides a nice little bit of harass and healing. And she has good wave clear. If you get 3 points of Q, even if you can't hit the enemy AD carry because they're just dodging it too much, you can still hit the caster minions and knock out like half of their health. So that's something a lot of people don't appreciate about Soraka, is in the laning phase she actually has pretty good wave clear. If you get 3 points in Q. If you max your E, which I do not recommend, but I know like Jolty on the channel loves that, and some other people do that, that doesn't affect minions, so you're not going to be able to push as well with that. But if you do get the Q, you can push, you can add that extra harassment onto the tower. So, in theory, she's good. However, just like the Zyra, just like the Sona, even worse in some respects, she can definitely get camped, she can definitely get ganked hard. At least Zyra has her E, you know, to maybe stun somebody. And Zyra has a lot of damage, so she can potentially just turn around and kill the jungler before the bot lane can join them. So that's always an option. It's just turn around and punch him in the face. Like, Soraka doesn't have that option. She's, you know, she can like, you know, I don't know, like meekly slap him in the face, but you know, the Lee Sin is still going to kill you if he comes in for a gank. And you know, Janna has disengaged. Sona at least has a speed up with her E. I mean, if you hit him with Qs, like, you might be able to get away as Soraka, but it's a lot more like might, if, maybe. It's really dangerous. So, she's okay. And also, like, in team fights later on, her range on the heal is like 450, which is really, really close. So that means you're going to be a lot closer to these other champions that can just flash and kill you. Potentially. Soraka functions a lot better when there are organized team fights and tanks running around. So they can really like make maximum benefit out of her health. And she gets completely shanked by Executioner's Calling or Morellonomicon, both of which are fairly popular items to get against Soraka. Versus Janna and Sona, Janna is pretty much all shields. Like, Executioner's does affect her ult healing, but, you know, most of the time it's not going to affect her that much, especially in the laning phase. And then Sona, yeah, she has a heal, but a lot of her effectiveness comes from shields as well, so she's not as affected by Grievous Wounds effects. So, Soraka's okay. She can be a good matchup into Janna or Sona specifically, but very, very dangerous. Very conditional. Lulu's kind of an odd duck. Lulu can be good, like a good anti-assassin. I think she has a very poor matchup against Sona and Zyra. She's okay against Janna. But she's relatively short range. Like, she has some wave clear with her Q. Her shield is like okay. It's not amazing. I don't know. She's okay. You can do it, but I just feel like the types of champs and situations where you would, like, where she would really be able to shine are kind of fallen by the wayside. Like, she is pretty good against assassins and things like that, but I just feel like she's going to get bullied hard by, like, Janna, Sona. Her base movement speed is pretty slow, so she's on the dangerous side as well. But yeah, like, she's pretty good against all ends. You know, if it was like a, I don't know, if you're against, like, a Leona or a Thresh or something like that, and they hook someone important on your team, you know, being able to ult that person and then being able to polymorph one of the enemy threats to buy some time, that can be very useful. But I've got her in there. She can push, she can poke, she can harass. I just think that Janna and Sona are going to do it better, and Nami. But Lulu's still pretty good. If you have something like a Kaisa or a Kog'Maw or lots of those Rageblade users, I think those all are a lot worse right now, which is another reason she's down there. And then you could still pick her, like, maybe with Twitch or something, but I'd probably rather run the other enchanters. And then finally, we've got Pyke, Leona, Blitzcrank, Morgana, Braum. I really wouldn't recommend these champs right now. You can win with them, and they are tier 3, but I really think you need to be going with some of these champs. Most particularly, I think it needs to be, like, these 6 or Soraka right now. I think, like, the tier 1 is going to be really, really strong, especially these 3 right here. Going to be some big game. Really big game. So, I'd be very careful picking tier 3. So Pyke he's okay. You know, you have to run Assassin with him. He's going to get bodied up and bullied by the girls. You know, the Janna, Sona, Zyra, Nami, the crew. You know, they're going to body him up in lane. He's going to be able to heal with his passive, but he's just going to be sitting there watching them. He's a melee champ. You're just kind of hoping to fish for a hook. They're going to be hiding behind minions that are going to constantly be pushed into your tower. He is relatively safe, you know, so he can roam around. But once again, roaming, very, very dangerous because you're going to leave your AD carry. Enemy team's going to grab a plate or two. So he did just recently get nerfed as well. Very squishy. He can get blown up. If Janna disengages his engage, it's just catastrophic. Sona, maybe you could make a play on her, but I don't know. There's just like a lot of ifs. It's very sketchy right now. I just wouldn't do it. I just don't think he just doesn't have wave clear. He doesn't have like a way to get through the minions to engage to get a hold of people. He's squishy. Like his items are going to require a lot of gold, so if you're not getting a lot of kills and resets, it's going to be really hard to get to the like the Ghost Blade and the Dust Blade. So he's all right. Leona's another one who, in theory, is pretty good against Sona. Janna's still pretty good. If you remember that historically, if you can tornado fast enough, Janna can still make that work. But pretty good against Sona. Zyra is kind of tough, especially if she gets you poked down early. If you can get on her when you're above 50% health, like you can maybe make it happen. But if you're at 50 or less, it's really rough. Yeah, I mean, very low wave clear, almost no wave clear. She can engage through the minions. Very dangerous if she gets ganked. Very hard to engage if you're pushed into your tower because you're going to be, you know, fighting in a bunch of your minions if you want to try to come out. So, very tough to play into someone like Caitlyn because she's going to put those traps up. Sivir is going to shield. I don't know. I mean, if you get ahead with her, if you have like a Draven or something and you're going for the kills early, like maybe you can make it work, but I feel like it's rough. Blitzcrank, roaming support's going to take a huge hit, can't hook through minions, so kind of like just a worse Thresh. That's what I think, like, you don't have as much utility. You do a lot of damage if you get a hold of him. He's just like a riskier Thresh might be the best way to put it. So he's alright, but I think there are probably better options. Morgana, still okay against hard engaged champions. You know, if the enemy team picks a Thresh, picks a Leona, picks Nautilus, Rakan, you know, she can still be pretty good, but she's going to have a real hard time against these champions right here. She's just going to get pushed in. Her wave clear is, like, okay if the minions are standing still, if she dropped that W on them. But she's just not going to be as much of a powerhouse with the Ardent Censer plus Redemption, which I think is going to become, like, the go-to for these two again. I mean, I guess Athene's plus Ardent for Sona, probably. But I just, you know, I think you're going to be staring at a bunch of minions chipping away at your tower if you're playing Sona a lot of the time. So, I don't know. She's a decent counter pick in some situations. And then Braum, just not the meta for him right now. He is very good with Lucian, so I still have him at tier 3. But, I mean, he's a team fight type of person. He likes that, you know, he's just bad in sieges. I think, like, he doesn't have wave clear. He doesn't have a lot of, like, reliable harass. He doesn't have very good engage to challenge these kind of poke champions. I just really wouldn't run him right now. I mean, maybe if you have the superior scaling AD carry, maybe if you have something like a Twitch or a Kai'Sa and you're against a Caitlyn and you're just like, okay, maybe if we just live somehow through the laning phase, if it's just a miracle, maybe we have a Lee Sin on our team who's duoed with AD carry is just going to camp bottom like mercilessly. Maybe we could make it work, but overall, I think he's going to get slaughtered in a lot of the current bottom lanes. Okay, honorable mentions. I think Fiddlesticks is still a pretty decent support. He can push early with his E, which is nice. I mean, maybe he deserves to be up a little bit higher for that. I think he can get bodied by champions like Janna, like Sona early on. He can heal through a minion wave, but I think he's going to run out of mana if he does that too often. It's hard for him to go up in auto towers because he has such short attack range, and if he gets ganked, he's probably dead. I mean, he can fear somebody and, like, pray for the best, but it's going to be really rough if they get behind you. So, kind of a dangerous pick. You're going to probably fall behind early, and he does not play very well when he's behind because he needs vision control, he needs map pressure, so that he can set up in really good spots to ult. So, I don't think he does that hot in a siege type of environment, which is the kind of meta I think we're going towards. So, I think that'll be rough. Brand is another one, just a worse Zyra. You know, Zyra can consistently poke people down with her plants early on, and they can trigger Dark Harvest really consistently, versus Brand has to land skill shots. Like, with Zyra, even if you miss with your plant, like, with your Q, you're still going to probably hit him with a couple of shots from your plant. So Brand has pretty good all-in potential. He doesn't have as much mana regen. Remember, Zyra, for some reason, has 15 mana per 5. I think Brand has, like, 8, maybe. So she's able to just spam her spells a lot more in the laning phase. She has better wave clear for less mana. You just, like, throw your E, you know, up the wave if you're really trying to clear it, whereas Brand really needs to use, like, his W plus his E. So I just think she's definitely a better Brand right now. Especially, she has longer attack range. Don't forget, Zyra has 575 attack range. So that's more than most AD carries. So she can definitely lay down a couple of hits on some towers. So he's still viable. He's okay. He's a lot better in a team fight or like an all-in kind of meta. And I think Zyra's better in sort of a poke and push meta. Shin, okay. Could you make him work? Sure. He's pretty bad. I should probably even put him lower than that. You know, just a lot of his items like Banner of Command that he used to get are kind of out. It's not like an all-in type of meta right now. So he's okay. Tom Kinch, specific counter pick, maybe 2 things like Ashe, Thresh lanes or something like that. You could still pick him. He's okay. He could have okay wave clear if you max W first and just constantly spit the wave into them. That's something I experimented with a while ago. It does make you a bit more vulnerable if you're going to get engaged on, but if you have something like a Caitlyn, or Sivir, and you're just going to constantly just push him into wave and just into the tower and just back up, maybe that can work. You know, you can use his ult to get behind the enemy and maybe get some kills. So if there's like a Janna or something, like a Janna, Caitlyn, and they just constantly have you pushed in, and you're the Tom Kinch, you can at least like ult behind him with your jungler and maybe make a play to kill him later. You might be able to pull that off once or twice to get back in the game. So he's okay. I think he could have his uses. Bard, I don't like him right now. I think his range is too short. He doesn't have enough wave clear. If you go, like, if you leave the lane to go grab those charms, enemy team's going to take a plate off you, off the tower. So I just don't think it's a very good roaming meta, and I think that bodes very poorly for Bard. So can you, you know, make some good plays? If you love Bard, can you win some games with him? Sure, you can. But I think that this meta is not fantastic for him. Now, Karma is someone where this meta should be really good. The last time we had a really good, like, poke and siege meta was, like, Caitlyn Karma or Ezreal Karma were very popular. But Karma's been nerfed a lot. She can still wave clear pretty well with her Q. She does have some pretty interesting combinations with things like Mana Flow Band. I don't know. I just don't think she does enough later in the game. She just doesn't have enough scaling. I think she's still going to get bodied up by champions like Janna, like Sona, like Nami in the laning phase. She's okay, but I think there is better choices most of the time. Taric, not a lot of wave clear, melee champion, really predicated on scaling up and trying to have some really good team fights with your ult. But right now, like, these siege type of comps are usually very good at disengaging. So if you're playing Taric against, like, Caitlyn, Janna, and they get ahead early game, like, you're just going to stare at them and lose. You know, your team's not going to be able to engage and use your ultimate effectively. They're just going to disengage with their traps and, you know, Janna's ultimate, and they're going to just think, okay, are you done yet? Is the ult done? Okay, we're going back to business. We're just going to keep sieging you. So I just don't think... If you're going to play a melee tank type of champion, it has to be something that can get a hold of siegers and, you know, kill them. Zillion, always kind of an odd duck. People always ask about Zillion. Frankly, I haven't seen him a lot. I haven't played him a lot bottom lane. I don't know for sure. His wave clear is suspicious. You know, he does have the bombs, which are nice. I mean, I'll say what I always say about Zillion. You could make it work, sure, he could be alright, but I would just rather play, you know, some of these other enchanters that are more consistent, that scale a lot better with the primo items, like Ardent Censer and Redemption. So, he's okay. Probably better options. Then finally, just Veigar and Vel'Koz. Vel'Koz is interesting. If Zyra becomes very popular, Vel'Koz might move up the chart. I think I'll go ahead and move Vel'Koz up just a little bit here, just because I think Zyra is going to poke her head back up. Xerath might be another one to think about. But like these kind of long-range mages can really blast champions like Zyra in the early game. The problem is with Vel'Koz, like, he doesn't siege very well. Pretty low auto-attack range. And his ult really wants people to stand still, and there's just so much mobility right now in the game that I think unless you have an ally that can hold people still, like an Amumu or a Kennen or something like that, it's going to be hard to channel your ult into something like an Irelia or an Akali or a LeBlanc or whatever. They're just going to zip around and kill you. But he is very good in the laning phase against champions like Zyra because he outranges them. And he has pretty good wave clear with his W, although it's a little on the expensive side. He's okay. I'd rather just have Zyra most of the time. I mean, maybe we could see Misfortune support again against Zyra. Zyra's really popular. I think they nerfed Misfortune's E, though. That's probably not going to be great. I'll have to research that. I mean, let me look at it really quickly, because I forgot about Misfortune support. I'm pretty sure they nerfed it earlier in the season when Zyra was pretty good. Although that would obviously be good with Dark Harvest. I think it's really the mana thing. I think that she has I think they increase the mana cost on her E. Okay, they increased the cooldown on it. Okay, that was a very long time ago. Huh. They just made it early game where you can't spam it as much, but I don't know. I don't know. It can trigger Dark Harvest. It can trigger Dark Harvest. It can trigger Scorch. It can trigger Cheap Shot if you auto attack them, or even if you use your double up to bounce off a minion onto them. It's still really, really expensive, though. It's still 80 mana, although it does quite a bit of damage, you know. Well, not really a ton, but the fact that it triggers, that it can trigger Dark Harvest and it can trigger Scorch, is interesting. So what? You could go Dark Harvest, Cheap Shot, like Eyeball Collection, maybe Ravenous Hunter, because that would heal you on a wave. A lot of it's going to come down to mana. What could you get that would give you mana? Yeah, Essence Reaper would be bad, I think. I hadn't really thought about Misfortune until just now. When I mentioned Zyra support and counters to Zyra support. So, like, basically, early... Now, she is very good at sieging, because she's an AD champion. Like, this is very good at harassing under tower. If you get them pushed in, and you're just bouncing these Qs off of minions, like, it's pretty obnoxious. And then she is pretty fast. Now, she can get ganked and murdered also. This is a very good ultimate, obviously, even with low items. I'll have to think about Misfortune support and sort of think about... it does trigger Spell Thieves as well. I think it would only trigger it once, though, kind of like a Morg W. It won't trigger all 3 stacks. I don't think. I'll have to test it out. My instinct is it's probably not something you would want to do all the time, but maybe this should be tier 3 as a specific counter to Zyra. Maybe Janna early. Yeah, being able to take Dark Harvest, Cheap Shot, Absolute Focus. I guess you'd have to have Mana Flow Band, 100%. So you do Mana Flow Band instead of Scorch, maybe. I don't think there's a mana item other than, like, Essence Reaver. Let me see Essence Reaver real quick. Sorry, I didn't want this to go too long, but now I'm kind of intrigued. I feel like it's bad, but they have reworked Essence Reaver a couple of times. I mean, obviously, people would go Black Cleaver on her a lot. I'm just trying to think, is there anything you could do early on? I mean, I had talked about Ardent Censor before, because you do slow people. You'd have to have, like, Font of Life or something like that, though. That'd be terrible, I think. I mean, her AP ratio's pretty bad. 80 on that, but it has to be like max charge. Like they have to sit in the whole thing. If she had better AP ratio, she'd be a very interesting support, but as it stands, you have to have like... I mean, Tear the Goddess? As stupid as that sounds, like, if your goal is just to non-stop spam E on people, just so you can trigger your stuff, just non-stop spam E, and then just, like, spam Q. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, that sounds ridiculous, but maybe you don't even have to turn it into Manamune. You just grab a Tear of the Goddess. Basic attacks refund 1% of your missing mana on hit. After casting your ultimate, your next basic attack on hit does this, where you gain 50% bonus attack speed. And it refunds your cooldowns on attack. I don't know, seems dicey. Seems kind of iffy. I mean, you could also just go something like Redemption and just say, whatever, I'm just going to get Redemption. But I don't know. It's hard to conceptualize, but, like, maybe. I mean, her E and her Q are very nice. I wouldn't want to go, like, Glacial Augment or something like that. Nah, I'm just, like, thinking of, like, really bad stuff now. It's really late at night. It's probably terrible, but, you know... If Zyra becomes very popular, maybe something just like going Frostfang plus Tear of the Goddess, Misfortune support, and just like maxing E, and then just spam it. Like every time it's off cooldown, just spam it in the wave. Just to wave clear as fast as possible. Just spam it on the enemy. You should be able to trigger Cheap Shot off of bouncing Qs onto people. So maybe that's worth it. So, I don't know. It'll be interesting to think about. You can go out there, experiment yourself with some of these things, see if you think it's worth it. But that's kind of my wild card. I'll have to try it out, you know, and see how good it is. I think maybe it won't be that good, but I mean, who knows? Maybe it is. Maybe being able to just spam and just hold people under tower and just harass them and then go up and land those autos on the tower. Maybe that works. Love Tap does do extra damage to towers. So... anyways, that's going to be it. This video is already way too long. Thank you very much for sitting through it. This has been a pretty good shakeup. If you've liked Enchanters and you've been really sad they haven't been great, At least I don't think they've been that great for the last 6 months or so. This is your time to come back. It's your time to shine. We're going to experiment with it more on the channel. We'll try out some different Janna builds, Sona builds. We'll play some more Zyra. Might even try out this Misfortune build. And we'll still have a healthy little dose of Rakan and Nautilus in there too, especially if we're blind pick. But anyways, that's going to be it. Don't forget, like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. Come by, check out the stream sometime. It's a lot of fun. We have a great community. And, go check out the Patch Notes video as well. If you want to support the channel, there's a link in the description. If you just want to, toss a couple extra dollars our way. Or if you want to become a channel member, it's just $5 a month. It's just like a Twitch sub. You can come out and play with us every Sunday on Viewers Night. We usually do viewers versus viewers. It's a lot of fun. We also have a great Discord community that's available for members. And then if I have a 30-minute dodge during the week, you're welcome to come play with me on the PBE. We'll test out all of the new changes, have some fun with that. And if you are a PayPal member, then you get $5 off any coaching or any guides that you might want to commission. So it's basically free. If you get any coaching or any guides, you get the membership on the house. So anyways, consider that if you want to help support the channel. If you want to support education in America, I am an actual professor at a university, an adjunct. So that means I don't make a ton of money, but I do like teaching at the college level in the United States. And this does help fund that, because they don't pay me anything hardly. So this channel does give me just a little bit extra so I can continue doing that instead of going to teach high school or something like that, which would be fine. It'll be fine. But I do like teaching college. So anyways, that's going to be it. Thank you very much. Have a good day, and I'll see you by next time.